We are currently tracking this major typhoon nearing the Philippines. This is going to be dangerous and potentially very
deadly. You even know what's going on in the Philippines? Have you visited there?
Well, if you must know, yes, I am an American, but I did spend loads of time in the Western Pacific and Eastern Asia. In fact, I forecasted in nearly every country that borders the ocean in East Asia with the U.S. Navy. Not to mention, I was on TV with NHK World for over 6 years. That's the largest TV station in all of Japan. Furthermore, I've been doing this YouTube channel for over 10 years now, ran WesternPacificWeather.com, and even helped set up several weather conferences in Manila, one at the University of the Philippines, where anybody could come for free to get valued weather information.
Sure.
You know what? Let's just take a moment and I'll show you some of the stuff I've done over the last decade just to prove to you I'm not some random white guy that walked in off the street. All right, now I just want to show you the intensity of Typhoon Sodalor when it came on shore. You have the ocean out here. There's surge 6 to 10 meters high, especially in that right front quadrant here, and even further towards the west as this starts to come on shore on the main island of Luzon. Brought devastation, and just like we were talking about earlier in our live cast, the winds in the center of the circulation of this storm are the equivalent of what you would find in an EF3 to EF4 tornado. Not hurricane, but a tornado out here.
I got to speak to meteorologist and East Asia weather expert Robert Speta earlier. He tells us more about Typhoon Ompong.
This storm system did pick up that speed there, now moving at about 30 kilometers per hour forward motion. Hey everyone, it's about 8 a.m. here on Monday morning. Tropical storm Money is just off the coastline. Sustained winds right now, I just checked it, about tropical storm strength. The storm did make landfall here at 10:30 p.m. here on the 11th of November over Polillo, now moving off towards the east in there into Quezon. Let's look at the latest radar imagery. You can just see this kind of looping through, pushing over these islands here. In front of Bagasa, at first glance, we got a few things here, but hey everyone, I'm currently in Tokyo, actually in front of the Japan Meteorological Agency, and today we'll be going inside and having a look around at what they use for forecasting the weather here in Japan, but not just there. The entire Western Pacific is 108 kilometers per hour. Out ahead of this, in the right front quadrant specifically, you're still going to be looking at that chance of some storm surge. That's where the strongest winds are going to be. It should stay east of Hong Kong.
Hurricane.
Now from News 10 NBC, here's your first alert forecast with meteorologist Robert Speta.
Just carrying off of that, I actually do want to touch in on that storm system. Just a beast, the strongest storm of 2018, a Category 5. I actually show a satellite picture here. That's now dissipated off across southeastern China, but this storm traveled quite a bit. Actually, hey, take a look at that map. It started just towards the east of Guam, impacted Guam, a U.S. territory, by the way, then northern Philippines, where widespread casualties and landslides have been reported out there, and then in southeastern China. Wind shear is the change of wind speed and height as well as the direction. And as we head into the winter months, the jet stream dips towards the south, the northeast monsoon picks up in the Pacific, and these factors cause the winds at the surface to be much different than the winds in the higher levels of the atmosphere. Get yourself to a safe area, because the backside of the storm, especially carrying that moisture off of the Pacific here, it is just going to push that water right on shore, coastal flooding, but also another round of potentially damaging winds throughout Thursday morning. Late evening hours here in eastern Taiwan, and we are continuing to watch Typhoon Sodalor approach the coastline. Now, throughout the day, the conditions have been deteriorating, but in just the last hour, we are starting to see some of those stronger rain bands come on shore. We often see, actually, is these northwesterly winds that come in across the Sea of Japan. And whenever we get that, we get what we call our classic winter weather setup in this country. And it's the sea effect snowfall. The snow piles up here along the mountains of Japan. But the big thing is that you often see some snow totals out here, which are absolutely incredible. Over towards Aomori, one of the snowiest cities in the world with over 100,000 people. Sapporo, the snowiest city in the world with over 1 million people. But Tokyo never really gets snow. It's because that mountains there, they stop all of that precipitation from getting over towards the lee side. It stays exceptionally dry. Now this plume has to be going up at least 5,000 to 6,000 feet, likely higher. But I think the big deal is we're right at the pre-dawn hour, and if you know much about photography, lighting is a big deal. And right now it has just this amazing reddish tint to the ash that's coming overhead. Even got some lightning bolts with this one. And even across parts of Hokkaido, it's been snowing on and off all week. Actually, a photo here from one of the TSC guides actually up there in Hokkaido talking about some of the roads being closed because of the heavy snowfall. Even here down towards the south, Shigakoken last weekend, plenty of snow out there on the mountains. Discussion about typhoon recon, like the hurricane hunters in the Atlantic, came back yet again recently. Typhoons, locally known as bagyo in the Philippines, are deadly and dangerous by their very nature. But sometimes when you get a developing nation along with some poor infrastructure, it can result in some of the deadliest, most catastrophic storms on record. Today I want to talk about the top 5 deadliest typhoons in recorded history in the Philippines. At this time, Catherine, still racing off here towards the northeast and passing by Shizuoka now, moving into the Kanto Plain. And we have already been seeing some very gusty conditions. Actually, back towards the west, winds upwards of 162 kilometers per hour was reported over here towards Shizuoka. It's still going to be ongoing as this storm system pushes off here towards the northeast. And actually, we have been continuing to see dry air wrap around the western periphery of our storm system. So what that means is that as this pushes off there towards the northeast, we're going to be seeing some rapidly improving conditions out there towards the west. Conditions actually by the afternoon and the evening hours into the Tokyo area could be partly cloudy skies to sunny skies as this does push overhead and off there towards the northeast. So definitely an ongoing story. It's not just the winds, but also the rainfall. We have seen some areas upwards of, well, reported as high as 400 to 500